So the White House retweeted something from Marco Rubio, and it says, under President Trump, America is stronger than ever before. The State of our Union is strong, and it features a picture of Trump all by himself. That's the picture they've chosen to put out from the White House. And this essentially, I'm going to go over the State of the Union a little bit and to tell you what the highlights are and what's going on. So this is an interesting one also. This is from the Trumps, Ivanka Trump, in fact. And I guess this must be before the State of the Union. It says, State of the Union, American flag, here we go, exclamation point, okay? And you got Jared Kushner there, you got Ivanka, you got Donnie Jr. with, I don't know who that woman is, let's be frank, because he keeps changing women. He does, and so I just don't know who that one is. Then you have the other Trump kid, and I don't remember her name. I just don't. And I think that might be her husband, actually. And then you got Barron. And it's funny because we know some of the Trump kids, we don't know some of the others that well. I think that might be Tiffany, actually. I take that back. I think I do know her name. And then Melania doesn't seem to be in this picture. And where is Eric? So that's kind of interesting. And the other thing, too, I want to mention with this is I've never heard Barron's voice. I just know he's really tall. So if you guys ever heard his voice, please let me know. So there's that. This is in Korean news, how they portray the Trumps, or Trump, I should say. And basically in Asia, you can insult people by being polite. So what they usually do, they just sort of show you what he says, and they have pictures of Trump, and Trump's a moron. I mean, you guys know this already. They'll like look at his tweets. So for example, this is, Trump talking about tariffs or whatever. Any country that wants to play games with ridiculous Supreme Court decision, especially those that have ripped off the USA for years, even decades, will be met with much higher tariffs and worse, buyer beware, right? And then they have to translate all that crap. Basically, though, they just show who Trump is. That's what it is. It's obvious, right? And then in our news, then they have to okay, we're monitoring the Trump dude. And, you have just like regular looking people saying regular kind of stuff. And that contrast alone basically really exposes Trump to how bad he really is. And you look at the stuff that he says, it should be obvious to anyone. I'm just going over it. America first, President Trump predicts jobs and investment will flood the country because, quote, we finally have a president who puts America first. Great. So I guess you try to say America first as much as possible. Moving forward, factories, jobs, investments, and trillions of dollars will continue pouring into the United States of America. So according to Trump, we are so rich with trillions and trillions of dollars. And to let me know, guys, if you've seen that trillions. And I went through all of the Fox stuff, and it just filled with that kind of stings.
And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
That's exactly what you expect it would be. It's interesting, though, because his tariffs got struck down by the Supreme Court, and now he's talking about tariffs again, and then he lies about who pays the tariffs. I mean, it's just Trumpy stuff. Actually, the replies, though, are interesting. So you can see Poly Market, they're effectively a gambling betting market. So the bet at the moment is that there's an 18% chance a tariff dividend is created before July. So some people just watch the State of the Union just to bet on it. And I talked about this in my last video, like how many times will Trump mention Biden? Would he mention Obama? How many times will he say China or whatever? Will he say we're the hottest country in the world, right? There's that kind of stuff. People bet on that stuff, and that gives you a reason to watch. But it's exactly what you'd expect it would be. The thing with Trump is he lies so much. It's just, there's no reason necessarily to go through the whole thing. But it is important to go over some of the important things. So, for example, this is for the MAGA in the audience, because some do watch. The countries that pay Trump's tariffs are colored blue on this map. Take all the time you need, okay? So just take a look at this map, especially if you're MAGA or MEGA, however you want to say it. And if you're confused who pays the tariffs, just focus on the map. It's all the countries on the map. And you could argue, I'm making a joke, want to make this clear, you could argue there should be 3 countries colored in blue, right? There's one missing. Hint, it's Hawaii. I don't think it's colored in blue there. And just so you know, that's Hawaii, Alaska, and then the mainland, right? However you want to say it, the continental U.S., the 48 states. But it is funny that you have to make these kind of jokes because effectively Trump just gaslights people, and some people actually fall for it. So you do have to put things this simply for people to understand. This is also one of the Trump people talking about what's going on.
He needs all 4 years, not just 2, to fix the mess. And that's what we need. If we lost the midterms, heaven forbid, if we lost the majority in the House, it would be the end of the Trump presidency in a real effect. So we've got to keep this going, and I think we're excited to put our candidates on the field to explain all this to the people.
So they're basically saying if they lose the midterms, which is looking that way, because you got a president who's just lies nonstop, then that's the end of their presidency. So there may only be just a few months left. I also want to show you this. This is from the New York Times, fact-checking Trump's State of the Union speech. And if you want to go this whole thing, you can, but I just kind of scroll. This is stuff from Trump. False. This needs context. False. This is exaggerated. This needs context. This is exaggerated. This needs context. False. This is exaggerated. This needs context. This is false. This is false. This is misleading. This is exaggerated. This is that lacks evidence, etc. Right? If you want to go the whole thing, you can, but that's basically what it is. I do want to show you this, though. This is pretty interesting. This is someone who's kind of have a falling out from the Trumpy land. Have a watch for yourself.
Let me see if I got this straight. Dude, I'm getting pretty sick of these political slop accounts just posting things to millions of followers that are blatantly untrue with no accountability at all. And usually I try not to call out content creators that generally align with my political ideology, but this one from Benny Johnson just pissed me off. Let me see if I got this straight. So there's a bunch of libs that are trapped in Mexico right now, and they're terrified because of cartel violence. A bunch of libs that are trapped in Mexico right now. First of all, bro, those are American citizens, and whether they're libs or not should be irrelevant if they're in the way of cartel violence, dude. But let's go back to this screenshot real quick of the bunch of libs trapped in Mexico. I've been able to identify 2 of these people, like the one on the bottom right. And I didn't do some extensive research here. I just took a screenshot, circled her face on Google Lens, and found her Instagram profile in 3 seconds. And I quickly found this Daily Mail article that shows the screenshot of her face and says her name. And this supposed lib that's trapped in Mexico is Tracy Lane. It says right in her profile, proud patriot. And go figure, you see what else I found? She already follows me. And then after I looked her up, I noticed that people were already in the comments. The lady on the right is not a liberal.
And I just wanted to show you that because let's say this, gentleman here, maybe we have some disagreements politically, but regardless of where you are in your politics or what policies you support, just making crap up is just not a good look. You lose all credibility. And that's why I just showed you kind of the stuff that Trump does or Benny Johnson, whoever. And it's a real problem. And I want to point this out. It happens on the left too as well. I've mentioned it several times. I'll just say this. You'll know who does it by look at the people who use a bunch of AI fake thumbnails of like showing people crying, showing people going, oh, right? And then they'll just like basically lie. It is a problem. Okay. So anyone who just like blatantly lies, blatantly purposely misleads, and essentially how this game is played by these Benny Johnsons, whoever, or people on the left, if you want to say that, they try to get you overly emotionally charged. And my feeling on any of this stuff, I just try to give you an honest opinion. I show you exactly what people say. And there's no reason. That's why I said, let's say with the Korean stuff, when they make fun of Trump, they don't lie. They just show you what he says. And that's all you have to do. There's no reason to lie about stuff. But yeah, some people out there on YouTube, they like to lie about who's having an affair with who or who's doing what. And they just lie, or who's kissing who. And they'll do that in thumbnails. And sadly, though, on YouTube, the conspiracy stuff is really popular. So I just want to address that. Even if, this particular person, again, I don't necessarily agree with all the things he says, but he gets sick of lies as well. And I think all of us should feel like that as well. I think that's a real thing. Another thing that happened in the speech, you can take a look at this.
Penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens, in many cases drug lords.
So basically there's a lot of yelling and shouting, which I completely understand. From Ilhan Omar says, Donald Trump killed 2 of my constituents. He is a liar and should be ashamed of himself. And we're talking about what's happening in Minnesota. And this would be an example. Yes, 2 people got shot and died. And so we can have different opinions on that, but that's what happened, right? And, this is interesting. This is a more conservative leaning over, well, you could say right wing, however you want to call it, but this would be in Britain. And just listen how they talk about the Trump speech.
Thank you, guys. Well, as you said, I did 5 hours of it. I jumped in a cab. I'm now back in my apartment. So if I look a little bit flustered, that might be why. But what did I make of it? It was really classic President Trump. Although I think he actually dialed down on some of the more kind of braggadocious style that he is associated with. I would also say there wasn't quite as many tangents. There wasn't the going off auto cue and ad-libbing in the way that we might associate with President Trump, even though it was, as you say, the longest speech in history.
And that's all you need to know, right? Longest speech in history. I guess he stayed on course. He usually meanders off or whatever. And the thing is, with like any person you watch, right? Be it right, left, whatever. And I generally don't talk about the right, left stuff that much because it's just not interesting to me. Just stick with people that tell you the truth, you know? And it was very interesting because even people who try to defend Trump, that's how they always talk about it. They're always like really delicate about it. But it's like, you know, just be honest. The guy's a moron. It's obvious. And what's so sad about this current state in the USA is there's a bunch of people who fall for Trump. Now, is it everyone? No. And in fact, a lot of people are pulling away from it. And this is where you need to be honest with yourself, guys, especially for people who, you know, say, oh, I liked Trump before, but now he's betrayed me. Just be honest. You were easily fooled, right? And I know it's hard to be honest about that. I really know. And a lot of us were warning you guys about how bad Trump is. And it's not hard to figure out. He had a bunch of bankruptcies. He had a bunch of wives. He's a felon. Like, what more do you need to know? He does like crazy crime stuff all the time, be it your crypto, laundering, whatever. It's obvious. It should be obvious to anyone. And then he's just like off trying to start wars with Iran now. That's what we're doing. And it's just like any number of things. Any one of single Trump's scams or scandals would end a politician's career in pretty much any normal country. USA is really bizarre this way. And I think a lot of it, just to be frank with you guys, I think a lot of it is the Fox News stuff. They'll just kind of like pump him up and just make crap up. But I do want to show you, though, that not everyone is like that. Take a look. This is the response on the Democrat side. Have a listen for yourself.
In his speech tonight, the president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse. He tries to divide us. He tries to enrage us, to pit us against one another, neighbor against neighbor. And sometimes he succeeds. And so you have to ask, who benefits from his rhetoric, his policies, his actions, the short list of laws he's pushed through this Republican Congress? Somebody must be benefiting. He's enriching himself, his family, his friends. The scale of the corruption is unprecedented. There's the cover-up of the Epstein files, the crypto scams, cozying up to foreign princes for airplanes and billionaires for ballrooms, putting his name and face on buildings all over our nation's capital. This is not what our founders envisioned, not by a long shot.
And honestly, that's a really good response. And it is tough to have any sort of honest conversation about this stuff with Trump in office because it's just like nonstop lying. And also, it just really also exposes the Republicans for basically not having any morals. I'll just be frank with you guys. They claim that they're the party of morals or whatever. If you're still supporting Trump here, I mean, it's embarrassing.